Welcome to Shocking History Photos, where the past isn't polished, it's painful, raw and real. Losing a limb with no anesthesia, just a swig of whiskey and something to bite. That wasn't rare, it was reality during the American Civil War. The battles were brutal, but what came after? Even worse. These rare photos reveal what life was really like beyond the battlefield. After suffering a battlefield injury in December 1862, Pennsylvania infantryman Richard Murphy underwent an arm amputation, a grim but common outcome for wounded soldiers of the time. With limited treatment options and infection a constant threat, such drastic procedures often meant the difference between life and death. This haunting example of battlefield trauma shows a Confederate soldier's cranium, extensively fractured by a shell explosion on July 12, 1864. The injury is a stark testament to the brutal power of artillery in the Civil War, where exploding shells could cause devastating and often fatal wounds. Long before modern warfare, Union soldiers rested in rough camps like this one along the Rappahannock River during the brutal Battle of Chancellorsville. Life off the battlefield was no less harsh. Mud, smoke, and fear were constant companions. These men endured freezing nights, meager rations, and the looming threat of battle. In the chaos of the Civil War, medical wagons like this one became crucial for soldiers facing horrific injuries. Here, a doctor demonstrates the use of anesthesia, a rare luxury in an era of raw, unrelenting pain. For soldiers, it was often the difference between enduring unimaginable agony and losing their limbs without a fight. Private Benjamin Franklin of the 2nd Minnesota Cavalry endured one of the harshest fates a soldier could face, losing all 4 limbs to frostbite. His silent sacrifice speaks louder than any battle cry. Not every war wound comes from bullets or bombs. Some come from the cold, relentless grip of nature itself. Private James P. Kegerice survived an unimaginable injury. A bullet tore through his throat, grazed vital veins, shattered his shoulder, and ricocheted off his own musket. Surgeons removed his entire humerus to save him. The fact that he lived to recover from such wounds is a testament to both medical grit and sheer willpower in the chaos of Civil War combat. A haunting X-ray from the Civil War shows a soldier's skull fractured by artillery, an eerie reminder of how brutal and unpredictable the battlefield could be. Every breath he took was a race against time. It wasn't just about surviving injury, it was about surviving the impossible. In this striking 1880 photo, Major General Henry Barnum proudly reveals the scar from a bullet wound that tore through his side during the Civil War. The injury never stopped him. He returned to lead with valor and earned the Medal of Honor. His body bore the pain, but his spirit remained unbroken. Over 3 million soldiers took up arms during the American Civil War, but more than 500,000 never returned. Countless others were wounded, many losing limbs to life-saving surgeries. These men, left with missing arms or legs, walked the streets as living reminders of a nation torn apart. Their bodies carried the scars of a war that never truly left. Private Columbus Rush, just 22 years old, fought bravely in the assault on Fort Stedman, Virginia, on March 25, 1865. A shell fragment shattered both his right leg and left kneecap, leading to the heartbreaking decision to amputate both legs above the knees on the same day. The appalling living conditions on the front lines during the American Civil War were breeding grounds for disease. Overcrowded and unsanitary hospitals worsened the situation, and soldiers, weakened by battle and poor hygiene, fell ill in droves. Disease killed more men than bullets, claiming 2/3 of the war's staggering casualties. The filthy, overcrowded hospitals during the Civil War created a perfect storm for infection, both before and after amputations. Despite the primitive surgical tools and methods, surgeons tried to ease the pain, often resorting to chloroform or alcohol to sedate their patients. Major General Daniel E. Sickles' fate took a dramatic turn during the Battle of Gettysburg when a cannonball tore through his right leg. Despite the intense injury, he managed to dismount and was swiftly taken to shelter, where doctors amputated the leg. Remarkably, he healed quickly and was back on duty by September 1863. His severed limb became a part of history, displayed in the Army Medical Museum, and Sickles visited it annually. Captain Charles L. Calhoun of the 188th Pennsylvania Infantry suffered a devastating gunshot wound during the Battle of Gravelly Run on March 29, 1865. The injury was so severe that his right arm had to be amputated in the lower third shortly after. Like many officers wounded late in the war, he carried the physical cost of battle long after the fighting stopped. Private James H. Stokes was just 20 when a mini ball shattered his elbow at Gravelly Run. Infection soon set in, and by May, gangrene threatened his life. Doctors fought to save his arm with crude incisions, turpentine and kerosene, painful and desperate measures. He survived, but left the war with a stiff, fused joint, a lifelong reminder of the war's brutal toll. Private Joseph Harvey's face carried the brutal mark of Chancellorsville. A shell tore through his right eye, shattered bone, and left his cheek torn open. Captured and held by the enemy, he returned to Union care with a wound that never fully healed. Even years later, saliva leaked from the side of his face, paralysis lingered. The war never really let go. After 4 failed surgeries, Private Julius Fabry finally found relief when doctors removed his leg at the hip. In this 1870 photo, his extracted femur rests beside him, a haunting, literal reminder of what he endured. And that bone, it's still preserved in a museum today, a silent tribute to one man's survival. Carlton Bergen was just a young soldier when medicine meant more danger than help. In 1862, a dose of calomel, meant to cure a cold, poisoned him instead, destroying his upper jaw. Surgeons removed the bone to save his life. Private William W. Reitman, a soldier in Company L, 2nd New York Heavy Artillery, was shot in the hip during a battle near Petersburg, Virginia, on March 31, 1865. The injury was serious, likely causing a lot of pain and long recovery. Wounds like his were common in the Civil War, and many soldiers faced long-term effects or permanent damage from similar injuries. John W. January, a veteran of Company B, 14th Illinois Cavalry Regiment, lost both of his legs during the Civil War. By 1890, he was photographed wearing prosthetic legs. His image stands as a reminder of the many soldiers who lived with life-changing injuries long after the war ended. In this sepia-toned photo, a group of medical students and professors are seen gathered around a cadaver, carefully performing a dissection. During the Civil War era, with so many deaths from battle and disease, cadavers became a grim but essential part of learning. Most of the medical progress made in that time came from studying the dead. In this striking photo, an amputation is captured as it takes place just outside a hospital tent in Gettysburg. The scene is stark and sobering, a grim reminder of the brutal toll the Civil War exacted on the human body. Amputations were the most common surgical procedure of the war, accounting for nearly 3/4 of all operations. It's estimated that around 60,000 of these surgeries were performed, often in open-air settings like this, with minimal anesthesia and under extreme conditions. Captured from an 1888 glass plate negative, this striking photograph reveals the lasting impact of war through the image of Sergeant George Eckert, color-bearer of the 74th Regiment. His wound, stark and haunting, tells a silent story of bravery, sacrifice, and the physical toll carried long after the battlefield fell quiet. John, a 22-year-old private in the 91st New York Infantry, suffered severe shell wounds, resulting in the amputation of his left leg and parts of his left hand. Despite the trauma, he arrived at Harewood Hospital in good health and healed well with basic care. He was later fitted with a prosthetic and discharged in September 1865. Philip Dudley enlisted in the U.S. Navy during the Red River Campaign and served aboard the USS Lexington. Less than a month into duty, he was wounded by musket fire and had his left arm amputated. He recovered at Hospital Pinckney and was discharged in June 1864 with a total disability pension. Leopold Massins lost his right hand to a Minier ball during the Second Battle of Reims Station and taught himself to write with his left. He later joined the Left-Handed Corps, submitting his story in German to a penmanship contest for disabled veterans. Luke Kelly, born in 1844 to Irish immigrants, enlisted early in the Civil War and fought in nearly every major battle with the Army of the Potomac. At the Battle of the Wilderness, he suffered a devastating wound that led to the amputation of his right arm near the shoulder. Sergeant Hezekiah Wiesner was struck while bravely returning fire during the intense second day at Gettysburg. A bullet tore through his right shoulder, shattering the joint as he rose to shoot from his knee. The wound marked the end of his combat service, but not his courage. On the left, a page from a manual of military surgery, wartime instructions for treating battlefield injuries, including amputations. On the right, a weathered tin of chloroform tucked inside a hospital knapsack. Chloroform wasn't safe, but it helped dull the agony of surgery, a rare luxury in a time of bone sores and bullets. Together, these artifacts show both the brutality and the breakthroughs of Civil War medicine. Surgeons during the Civil War carried kits like this one, packed with essential tools such as amputation saws, knives, forceps, and other surgical instruments. These kits were vital for performing quick, often life-saving procedures in the chaotic and unsanitary conditions of battlefield hospitals, where amputations became a common response to injuries. During the Civil War, war surgeons earned the nickname sawbones due to their frequent use of amputation to treat severe injuries. With limited medical knowledge and tools, they quickly resorted to amputations as a way to save soldiers' lives, often using saws to remove limbs in battlefield conditions. The image of a dead Confederate soldier in Devil's Den, Gettysburg, captures the harsh reality of the battlefield. Located in a rocky outcrop of the Gettysburg battlefield, Devil's Den was a site of intense fighting during the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863. Left, this bottle contains Dover's powder, a mixture of opium and ipecac used to relieve pain and induce sweating. Right, opium was commonly administered during the Civil War to manage pain, treat coughs, and ease diarrhea, providing temporary relief in the harsh conditions soldiers faced. During the Civil War, two key innovations ensured better medical care for wounded soldiers. The first was the creation of an efficient ambulance corps, designed to quickly evacuate the injured from battlefields. Based on prototypes from 1859, a variety of ambulances were produced, some with 4 wheels for stability, and others with 2 for greater maneuverability, allowing for faster transport and life-saving care. The image of wounded soldiers under trees at Mary's Heights, Fredericksburg, taken after the Battle of Spotsylvania in 1864, poignantly captures the aftermath of one of the Civil War's bloodiest battles. Mary's Heights was the site of intense fighting, where Union forces repeatedly attempted to break through Confederate defenses. This photograph depicts Confederate soldiers who fell behind a stone wall at Fredericksburg, where the 6th Maine Infantry successfully penetrated the Confederate lines during the Battle of Fredericksburg. The battle, fought in December 1862, was marked by intense combat and heavy casualties. Union forces faced fierce resistance as they advanced toward the stone wall, which became a key defensive position for the Confederates. For soldiers wounded during the Civil War, their experience with the medical system was often grim. While there were some advances, such as the establishment of a trained ambulance corps to transport the injured, these were far outweighed by the horrors of the field hospitals. The conditions in these makeshift hospitals were often unsanitary, overcrowded, and lacked proper medical care, leading to more suffering and death for many soldiers. For many soldiers, the prospect of combat during the Civil War was terrifying, leading some to take drastic measures to avoid battle. Since fleeing in fear could result in being shot by their own commanders, some soldiers resorted to faking injuries or illnesses, while others went as far as intentionally injuring themselves to escape the horrors of fighting. What you've just seen isn't ancient history, it's what the Civil War was really like. The blood, the bone saws, the faces behind the photos. These images expose the pain, the progress, and the price of one of America's darkest chapters. If this gave you a new perspective, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And drop a comment. Which photo hit you the hardest?